is Shani, and I'm here with another video on Aquabord. So if you haven't seen my first video, I go through and I give the pros and cons of using this surface, and I take it a little bit more pragmatically where I'm talking about the cost of things and presentation, all the stuff that's important, but it's not quite as creative. So today I wanted to give some tips on how to actually use it in like the painting part, like the thing that we're all here for. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm gonna do a speed paint and I'm just gonna talk about what I did while working on this portrait that's specific to working with Aquabord. First tip, you have to pre-wet your surface before you start working. So Ampersand actually has a note about this. For best results, flush out the panel with water using large flat watercolor brush to release trapped air in the surface. Once surface is slightly damp, it is ready to use. Re-wetting may be needed as you work. Note that heavy water applications may release more air. Use a blow dryer to dry and dissipate air. Enjoy this new paper-like finish and create brilliant watercolors. It's really important that you don't forget this step. You can see when I wetted this surface how the air bubbles are rising out, and if you don't do that, you can see a speckled pattern has appeared in some of my watercolors. So these actually happened after I'd pre-wet my surface, but it had been like a week. This is one of the last layers of my painting, so you're still gonna get that. Now I had another painting that I forgot to wet the surface from the get-go, and you can see there's this grainy kind of pattern to it and this like visual noise. It doesn't look great, so do not forget this first step. So here I've got a 6x6 piece of Aquabord, and we're gonna do some little swatches and experiments to just demonstrate how the paint handles on it. So here I'm wetting down a little section for a swatch of Quinacridone Magenta, and you'll see that it's spreading a little bit, but it's not as active as you might expect Core's Quinacridone Magenta to behave on a cold press paper. This is a color that will zoom across the surface of your, like the wetted surface that you've made. And it's just a little bit less, I don't want to say less alive. I mean, it's still a beautiful color, but it's just not going to spread out as much. And I've noticed that's generally true for all of the colors on Aquabord. So that's just how Core handles on it. I can't speak to other brands. And I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing. That second swatch was Cobalt Teal. Now I'm doing some wet on wet dispersion, and this one's transparent pyrrole orange. And you will see it spreads out a little bit, but it's not a whole lot. This is a ultramarine blue. So we get a little bit of a bloom there, but nothing too crazy. Now I'm cutting in a really crispy line with some Quinacridone Violet. So I just wanted to show you can get really nice lines. You don't have to wait an eternity for that Cobalt Teal to dry. It dries at a pretty reasonable pace. And then I'm going to overwork all of this stuff trying to get really smooth transitions. And so this might not be something you blame the paper or your surface, because it's something that I have a hard time with, just getting nice, smooth swatches. If you've watched any of my other videos, you can attest to this. It is its own skill, trying to get nice, even transitions that have to be like perfect. So I'm here working and overworking. But hey, you know what? Now you'll get to see how, I guess, hardy the surface of an Aquabord can be. So if you're gonna overwork the surface of a 90-pound paper, it's gonna start giving out on you. Even a 150-pound paper might start kind of crudding up on the surface when it starts getting overworked. In an Aquabord, that's not really gonna happen. So here I'm doing one of those spheres that's supposed to be perfectly shaded to make a nice, you know, shading demonstration. Coming in here with Payne's Gray, and yeah, I'm gonna work this one to death too. So yeah, just getting those really smooth transitions is something that wasn't really easy for me in Aquabord, and how I approach my portraits is more of laying in areas of color and not really blending anything out, but just kind of layering up. Or if I do blend out, I don't know, it's not quite as precise as doing these spheres or the gradient with the violet. But it does show that it is kind of a different working process. You can kind of go back and forth with it a lot more than paper. And I guess the only way I can describe this, and none of this is in a bad way because I do enjoy this surface, it's almost like the paint in the water doesn't penetrate the surface as deeply as paper. So all of your paint in your water is sitting on top of the surface. And I think that's why here in a bit you'll see how easy that it lifts and just how everything has a slightly different look. I think it's because the paint is just a little bit more at the surface than paper. So you're seeing that I'm kind of reactivating bits, trying to get a nice smooth gradient because I'm getting all perfectionisty. It's like, hey guys, a great tip for beginners with painting, don't overwork it. And here, watch me overwork the crap out of this sphere here. But I did it on purpose to show y'all guys how, I guess kind of back and forth you can go on this. You can kind of, I'm almost doing like a subtractive technique. Okay, now right there, I just added a bunch of paint there. But now I'm dabbing it out with a paper towel because I'm just like, oh crap. And now I'm like, oh my God, this whole demonstration's going off course. What'll I do? Yeah, I'm getting to the point where I'm about to give up and be like, it just be what it be. Hopefully they'll be impressed with my portrait enough to forgive my sphere. All right, now I'm doing a swatch of a granulating color, Cobalt Teal, and Quinacridone Violet. I love using those colors together because one of the pigments is bigger, the Cobalt Teal, that kind of sinks, and then the Quinacridone Violet floats on top, so you can kind of see the way granulation appears on Aquabord because it is different than paper. Yeah, you can see right there the purple's kind of flowing out a little bit more than the teal. This is just a killer color combo just in general, and I love it. But yeah, I just wanted to show y'all that because even varying up your paper from brand to brand can really make a difference on how these kind of quirkier color combinations end up working. Now I've got my scrubby brush and I just wanted to show y'all how easily paint lifts out of the surface. So that Quin Violet right here, that is a staining pigment and it lifts out beautifully. So this is wonderful for subtractive techniques or if you make any stray marks or any mistakes, it's really easy to come back from. So good thing if you're into lifting, if that's something that you can utilize in your work. Not so great if you are not wanting to lift paint but are wanting to do glazed layers. So right here I'm going to show you how you can do glazed layers over top of these Quin Magenta markings. So I'm taking this orange and I'm just floating the paint on top. It's the friction that's going to lift the paint. So if you just gently wipe the paint over top of your surface, you can see that those markings remained intact. Now something you could do is intentionally lift the paint with a layer on top. So this is if you wanted to soften those lines beneath it. So I just started being more aggressive, laying down my paint. And you can see it's softening up a little bit, but it's not very dramatic. So now I've got to kick things up to the next level because I'm like, yes, this needs to be the best demo ever. I've got to show you how you can totally wipe out that pattern. So I take out the scrubby brush with the orange paint still wet, and I am trying to soften those lines up quite a bit. This is a technique I've used for hair where I'll kind of have the hair kind of direction and shapes put in and it looks almost like zebra stripes, but then I'll come back with a color on top, I'll soften up that stripiness, and all of a sudden you can still see the direction of the hair, but it's a bit softer. Okay guys, so I'm slightly concerned that this footage, my little swatchy board, is not really selling Aquabord to y'all, but I really do enjoy this surface. I don't know, like these experiments, they don't really impress me, but what does is the actual aesthetic of a finished art piece. So now we're doing a speed paint so I can show y'all that. So the first thing I did was I wet my surface because that's the most important step. Got it mostly dry, and then I started putting in my lightest washes first. So you'll notice I have that little scrap strip of paper, and this is because when you're working with Aquabord and it's wet, the surface is darker and it's kind of got like a warm gray tone to it, which will kind of discolor your paint when you put it down. it'll dry white and your paint will be the beautiful color that you always wanted it to be, but you can't tell until it's completely dried. And that can take like a half hour sometimes. So I have this little sheet where I can test out all of my colors, so that way I know what I'm putting down on the Aquabord and I don't have to sit there and doubt it and lift it out or try to like adjust it when I don't truly know what the color is. So right here, I'm just putting in the initial kind of values of the face, getting the shadow on that one side, and then putting in just those light fleshy colors on the other side. One thing that I don't know if it's something that I think I could improve on is making sure when I put down my areas of color that they're in attractive little puddly shapes. I think that sometimes there's a nice balance between how many puddly shapes, how few, like how they're all kind of shaped and stuff. I don't know. It just like, you want to make sure that your skin tone is attractive and it doesn't look too textured or like he's like, what's his name? Freddy Krueger with the big claws and his face is all kind of like muddled and stuff. I haven't seen that movie. But anyways, yeah, just be aware that your paint will have more defined edges if you're painting like this. I know there are other ways to paint where you can get smooth edges and maybe swanky, nice photorealist painters are like, Jenny, you have no idea what you're talking about. And maybe I don't. But this is how I am painting. So don't tell me what to do. Okay, God. This voiceover, my goodness. All right, so yeah, adding more and more details in. I find that the Aquabord, or maybe it's just painting in general, it's like the first layers end up feeling very stressful to me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, am I doing this right? And then as I start getting those harder lines on there and start defining the shapes a little bit more, I feel like it's a more rewarding process. Maybe just because you start seeing your portrait taking shape. So this is a portrait I'm doing of my husband. It's on an 8x10 Aquabord. I'm using Core watercolors as usual. And right here I'm using a silver black velvet brush. And I'm starting to wonder, like, those are fantastic for details and stuff, but I might go back to using my Winsor Newton Series 7 brushes more for the flat areas like the cheeks and the forehead and stuff, because they're not as pointed, and I think I'll get nicer shapes if I do that. But let's see, what else do I have to say? I guess if I want to talk about the meaning of this piece, meaning being a pretty loose term here, well, I guess you can't see it yet, but I'm gonna be putting an American flag kind of motif patterny kind of thing on the sunglasses, and I've been thinking about doing just stuff with sunglasses and clothes because it's fun and it allows me to use a lot of color, and I want my artwork to look fun and colorful because I think that I'm a fun person with like a nice sense of humor and stuff, and I feel like a lot of the work I make tends to be kind of sad, and I've been like pulling away from that, so maybe if you've just started following me recently you don't see that, but in the past I've made a lot of sad girl art, and I feel like everybody makes a lot of sad girl art at some point in their life, so I'm trying to pull out from that and reflect a more positive or more I don't know, quirky, silly, humorous somewhat. I don't know what I'm doing, guys. Nobody does. That's the real takeaway from the Aquabord video, is that nobody knows what they're doing in life. So let's get real existential. You know what? If I could cry in the Aquabord tips video, like that would be the big surprise. It'd be like bonus crying, not clickbait, hashtag whatever. Okay. Anyway, back on topic. So he's wearing sunglasses and they're going to have an American flag thing on him. And it's just about how I was thinking about how since, I guess, 2015, my husband particularly, he started following the election, and I had this thought, it was like, oh, like what a weird hobby. I guess this is what he watches instead of sports. And now it's become, politics have just become really pervasive, I feel, in most people's lives. And honestly, it just kind of sucks. I wouldn't choose to have politics be a thing in the forefront of a lot of people's minds. I think this is a bipartisan issue. I think a lot of people are thinking more about politics than they ever have before. And I'm not going to get political on the art channel. You can follow me on Twitter if you would like to see that. Just me basically just rage tweeting every once in a while. But yeah, it just is, it's a part of life. It's a stressor. I see a lot of people being stressed out a lot, and it just seems that there's a lot of unrest and a lot of tension that I haven't experienced in my life. But also, you know, as a younger person, of course I wasn't into politics because, I mean, I guess a lot of younger people in my generation weren't. I don't know what the kids are doing now. If you're a teen, let me know. Are you into politics? But it just, I don't know. I lost train of thought. So, anyways, I just have been wanting to work with this idea of us putting things on our bodies like clothes and sunglasses and stuff, and it reflecting like our reality, what we see. Like sunglasses, I feel like are particularly relevant for this. So that's been kind of my thought lately, my direction that I think I'm going to be looking into more and more. I've really been thinking a lot about what I want to make, or not what I want to make. I know what I want to make. I've always known, but like I do things like this in the end. It's got USA flag, you know, sunglasses, which is kind of, I guess it's kind of kitschy and cheesy. And I look at that, I'm like, well, that's not very sophisticated. And it's like, well, do I have to be? I'm not a sophisticated person. I'm not particularly mature. I don't really view myself as the kind of artist that's in art galleries. And the artists that I like tend to be kind of illustraty artists too. And I love funny art as well. So I don't know. All right, we're deviating from Aquabord. So you'll see right here, I'm putting in the, I don't know, I'm putting in the what? The background accents kind of stuff. Been trying to break up the white surface of my work. That tends to happen a lot. But Aquabord has a really nice clean surface. So if you are looking for a surface that's not hot pressed, that's smooth, you might give Aquabord a go because it's a little less textured than the cold press. Okay, so here I'm getting into the sunglasses part, and I wanted to talk a little bit about granulation. So I'm gonna put, what is it, ultramarine blue. I'm putting it down right now. As we speak. No, I'm talking to you as we speak. Okay, anyways. So I'm putting down ultramarine blue right here, and I honestly was not huge in the way that it granulated. Granulation is something that is not like it doesn't factor that big into my work, even paper, regardless of surface. I'm not like against it, but I'm not necessarily like a fan of it. But I'm really not sure if I enjoy Aquabord and granulation together, particularly the ultramarine blue. It's a little too noisy for me. It definitely, like, with the Aquabord, I guess maybe because it has less of a tooth to it, it does, like, the granulation really looks like it sits on top of it. Like, I know I'm going to say this a bazillion times in this video. You really do just have to try it for yourself and for your work. The 6x6, it comes in a pack of 4. I got mine off of Amazon, and it was really affordable. On what's it called? Blick. That's where I've been ordering them lately. The uncradled smaller boards are ones that I feel okay with experimenting on. I mean, cost, it does add up, but honestly, paper kind of does too. So my advice would be just know it's going to cost you a little bit to figure out if you like the surface, and if you don't, you know, just, you know, at least you'll learn something. But once you get to the point where you're like, I know I enjoy this, now you're going to spend more time in your sketchbook planning out your work so you don't make crappy pieces on Aquabord, like I just did the other day. But thankfully, I kind of like this piece. It is cheesy, like I was saying earlier, but I'm okay with it. Oh, so I use manganese blue here, and I really like the way that one sat on the surface. So there still is going to be some more texture with it, but I don't know. I thought it was more pleasant looking than the ultramarine blue. And you know what? I'm not saying that the granulation on the surface looks bad. It just isn't what I'm looking for in my work. It might be exactly what you wanted in yours. So over here, when I'm doing the sunglasses part, I know that that manganese blue is on there pretty thick, so I am being very careful when I'm layering on top of it that I don't start lifting. So when you have the paint on really heavy on the surface, that's when you have to worry the most about pulling it up when you work on top of it. Yeah, yep, doubling up on that blue. So yeah, he's kind of got this look on his face where it's just like, like kind of like a comically frustrated look. I kind of like those exaggerated, kind of gross teeth faces, as you can tell by my profile picture that I have on everything. So yeah, if y'all have any suggestions, any like kind of ideas along this line, well, actually, I mean, I guess you can suggest it. I take it back. I don't need your suggestions. I got my own. It's like, I get so far into the voiceover, it's like, quit saying dumb stuff. Like, just let it end. Just do good. It's so, I think, how long have I even been talking? My God. I hope you'll like this more candid kind of stuff. I mean, I could rattle off stats for you, but I do feel like a lot of this you can find on the Ampersand website. All right, so here is the finished portrait. Yay, looking good. Alright guys, thanks for hanging out. I hope you learned a little something maybe. If you did, give this video a thumbs up, give a like, a follow on all the social media stuff down below, and I'll see you guys next time when I've got another cool video, hopefully a cool video. I don't want to make a lame one. But yeah, have a good rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Bye!